Nicola's made it quite clear that I mustn't say things to embarrass her. One of my favourites for Nicola growing up was when a friend of mine stopped me one day and he said, "Oh, fantastic, I saw Nicola bombing around in her car. Congratulate her on passing the driving test." Which I replied, "She hasn't." Nicola then, at about 18 and 19, decided to go off to Australia for 3 months. That's when my grey hairs really started. Soon after that, she moved to London with work. A year or so later, moved out to Bristol here to make a home with Gareth. I must admit, again, I was a little worried. More grey hair, but I needn't have worried. Gareth has definitely made Nicola very happy. All a dad really wants for their children as they grow up is for them to be safe and happy, and I can see with Gareth I've got no worries with that at all. So please just raise a glass with me and wish them all every happiness for the future. Thank you very much.
On behalf of my now legally official wife and I, I want to start by saying thank you all so much for being here with us today. So as you know, and as Mick just said, this is actually part 2 of our wedding doubleheader, as Nicola and I eloped and tied the knot 2 weeks ago in beautiful Langkawi. We always said that when the time came to get married, we would do it on a beach somewhere exotic, and of course, we would have loved it if you could all have been there with us. Too right now. Unfortunately, it's apparently not the done thing for the groom to roast the bride in the speech, which is disappointing. So instead, I will just share a couple of short stories instead. Nearly 10 years ago now, July 2014, we met at Lovebox. So I was there joining a couple of mates, and the first tent we went into after we just got into the festival, right at the start of the day, out of the corner of my eye, I see Nick and Daniela skipping past us. She smiled at me and said hi, and I believe the first thing I said to her was, "Are you from Essex?" Which, as chat-up lines go, was admittedly pretty subpar, but it obviously got better as they spent the rest of the day with us, and we were both smitten enough by the end of it to stay in contact, despite her being in Bedford and me in Bristol. I said this in my wedding vows as well, but I love the fact that we started with a proper sliding doors moment, where 1 minute out either way, and we probably never would have met, which is pretty wild to think about today, and that turned out to be the most important minute of my life. And that brings me to the present, where 2 weeks ago, and again today, I married the love of my life and my best friend. You're caring, passionate, and can always make me laugh. I'm so proud of you and grateful for all the amazing times we've had together over the last 10 years. You look absolutely beautiful today, and I'm excited to start the rest of our lives together.
For those of you that don't know me, my name is Si, and I have the privilege of being Gareth's best man today. We had a fateful introduction some 20 years ago, if you can believe it. And man, am I glad that that introduction was made, because I stood here today acting for the best man that I know. One of Gareth's earliest accommodations in Bristol just so happened to be on a square in Clifton, not so far from where we are now. And it just so happened to be where my office was at the time. This worked perfectly. After school drinks on a Friday, that often finished on the Saturday or the Sunday. And it was during one of these Friday night drinks, Gareth mentioned he needed to store his bed. A year later, the bed is still with us. He will not collect it. So I should really have known better when during one of these Friday night drinks, he said to me, "Yeah, I now need somewhere to stay." Gaz and Nick eventually moved out 4 years later. It was possibly the most formative time of our lives living together. It was a relentless cycle of late nights, loud music, and early morning renditions of George Harrison and Spandau Ballet. And I vividly remember our first meeting, Nick. I knew a force had entered our lives and that you were going to be in my life for some time to come. I just didn't realise how much in my life you were going to be. 8 years later, I'm now stood here now looking at the two of you as Mr. and Mrs. Hook. We've already shared an awful lot together, and I look forward to seeing what's to come with you two as husband and wife. So with that, everybody, please, as much noise as you can possibly make for Mr. and Mrs.